Tokyo glowed in neon lights as the city bustled with life. Among millions, Arata, a young man who loved quiet walks and books, felt a storm inside his heart. One evening, while browsing a small bookstore in Shinjuku, he met Hana, a bright-eyed girl, curious about English and literature. Hana asked politely, "Can you recommend a book to improve my vocabulary?" Arata handed her The Great Gatsby, their fingers brushing lightly. That small touch caused Arata to feel infatuation, an intense, immediate attraction. Infatuation equals strong, often short-lived passion. Over the next weeks, Hana visited the bookstore every Thursday. Sometimes she read quietly, sometimes discussed novels with Arata. Slowly, their conversations expanded beyond books to life itself. Vocabulary lessons naturally emerged. Serenity equals calmness. Empathy equals understanding others' feelings. Resilience equals ability to recover from difficulties. Arata felt life brighten. He explained phrases like carpe diem, seize the day, and live in the moment. Hana applied these expressions while narrating experiences, improving her fluency. Each interaction doubled as English practice and life lesson. One evening, as cherry blossoms fell in Ueno Park, Arata said, "Hana, ephemeral things are precious because they don't last long. Ephemeral equals lasting for a very short time." Hana smiled, understanding their fleeting moments taught both language and life lessons. However, subtle changes appeared. Hana became distant, smiled less, often checked her phone, and sometimes cancelled plans. Arata felt suspicion. Suspicion, feeling doubt, or mistrust. He struggled to balance emotions with patience and empathy. Vocabulary like compromise equals adjusting for mutual benefit. Perspective equals viewpoint became practical in their discussions. Arata's emotions grew complex. Words like envy, jealousy, and betrayal described his inner turmoil. Envy is a desire for what another has. Jealousy, fear of losing someone's attention. Betrayal, violation of trust. One night, curiosity and fear drove him to follow Hana discreetly. He discovered her meeting another man in a quiet cafe. The sight shattered him. Vocabulary. Shattered equals completely broken. The intensity of betrayal pushed him toward obsession. Persistent preoccupation with someone. Obsession equals unhealthy fixation. Here, the story introduces a critical lesson. Uncontrolled emotion leads to irreversible consequences. Vocabulary, consequence equals result of an action. Remorse equals deep regret. His mind spun with conflicting feelings, love, hurt, and anger, all blending into a dangerous storm. The next day, their paths crossed in a secluded alley near Shibuya. Hana smiled unknowingly. Arata's hands trembled. He struggled with self-restraint. Self-restraint equals controlling one's impulses. But in a tragic instant, emotion overtook reason. A sudden action led to Hana's death. Vocabulary, tragic equals very sad. Instant equals very short moment. Immediately, reality struck him. Arata's heart sank in grief and remorse. Grief equals deep sorrow. Remorse equals regret. Vocabulary from previous lessons now intertwined with his emotions. Obsession, betrayal. The cold walls of the detention center surrounded Arata as he sat silently, haunted by what he had done. Tokyo's bright lights outside seemed distant and meaningless, reflections of a world that continued without pause while his own life had shattered. Vocabulary: haunted, constantly troubled by thoughts, shattered, broken completely. Every memory of Hannah tormented him. Her smile, her curiosity about English words, her gentle voice, all replayed in his mind. Vocabulary: tormented, severely distressed, curiosity, half desire to learn or know. Arata realized that one impulsive moment of anger had ended all of it, leaving only grief and remorse. Grief equals deep sorrow. Remorse equals deep regret. He began to write in a journal provided by the authorities. Vocabulary, journal, a personal record of thoughts. He wrote sentences practicing both English and reflection. I acted in anger, and now I face the consequences of my actions. Consequences equals results. Actions equals deeds. This process became a tool for learning as well as personal reflection. Arata spent hours contemplating the chain of events. Vocabulary: contemplating equals thinking deeply. He dissected his emotions. Obsession, jealousy, betrayal. Obsession: unhealthy fixation. Jealousy: fear of losing someone's attention. Betrayal: violation of trust. He realized that these uncontrolled emotions had led to tragedy. Even in confinement, English learning continued. He practiced sentence structures. If I had controlled my anger, this tragedy would not have happened. Conditional sentences, expressing what could have occurred differently. Vocabulary: controlled, restrained, tragedy, very sad event. Arata's understanding of emotional intelligence grew. Emotional intelligence equals recognizing, understanding, and managing one's emotions. He understood that reflection, empathy, patience, and communication could prevent irreversible mistakes. Vocabulary: irreversible equals cannot be undone. He recalled the words he had taught Hannah: serenity, resilience, empathy. Now these words resonated differently. A painful but valuable lesson. Serenity equals calmness. Resilience equals ability to recover. Empathy equals understanding others' feelings. He realized that these lessons were not only for learning English, but also for life. Nightly, Arata engaged in deep reflection. Vocabulary: reflection, serious thought, penance, voluntary self-punishment for wrongdoing. He thought about how jealousy and anger had clouded his judgment. English sentences like, "I must learn patience and self-restraint," became a mantra, teaching both vocabulary and life lesson. Self-restraint equals controlling impulses. Interactions with guards and fellow inmates offered practice in communication. Vocabulary: interaction equals communication or direct involvement. Arata expressed feelings. I feel remorseful because my impulsive decision caused irreversible loss. This taught viewers sentence structure. I feel because, useful in emotional English expressions. Arata also explored forgiveness. Vocabulary: forgiveness equals letting go of resentment. He realized that while he could not undo Hannah's death, understanding and forgiving oneself were steps toward personal growth. Phrases like, "I forgive myself, but I must never repeat this mistake," reinforced learning English and moral reflection simultaneously. He maintained a routine of reading, journaling, and observing others. Vocabulary, routine equals regular habit, observing equals carefully watching, journaling equals writing down thoughts. Each action improved English fluency while providing moments of self-awareness. Arata learned complex English vocabulary connected to emotions, grief, remorse, regret, consequence, obsession, self-restraint, emotional intelligence. Vocabulary integrated naturally within narrative reinforced understanding in context. Daily reflections became more structured. Example sentences. Anger leads to irreversible mistakes. Reflection and self-awareness are crucial for growth. Communication prevents unnecessary tragedy. Arata noticed that while he suffered internally, these English exercises and moral reflections offered a way to channel his remorse productively. Vocabulary. Channel jarged direct thoughts or feelings into action, productively, in a useful way. One day, a teacher from the prison educational program visited. Arata explained his experience in English. I let anger control me, and now I understand the importance of patience and self-restraint. Vocabulary, importance, significance, patience, ability to wait calmly. The teacher praised his reflection and emphasized the practical English learning taking place through real-life events. Arata's narrative included practical advice for learners. 1. Emotional vocabulary. Grief, remorse, regret, consequence, obsession, self-restraint. 2. Sentence structures. I feel because. If I had, I must. 3. Life lessons integrated into language learning. Even in despair, Arata's story became a dual lesson. English vocabulary and the consequences of impulsive actions. Viewers learn that emotional control is essential, and language learning can occur through real-life reflection. As Tokyo's neon lights blinked outside, Arata's mind traced the same streets he once walked with Hana. Vocabulary, traced, shadows followed, streets, shaka roads. Each memory reinforced the English words he now connected to deep life lessons. The bright city continued its rhythm, unaware of the lessons unfolding in one man's remorseful heart. Vocabulary, rhythm, near repeated pattern, unaware, not conscious. Days passed slowly for Arata inside the detention center. Tokyo's neon lights, once a symbol of energy and life, had become distant memories. Every sound, every shadow reminded him of the irreversible action he had taken against Hana. Vocabulary, irreversible, cannot be undone. Detention, temporary imprisonment, symbol, representation. Arata spent hours reflecting. Vocabulary. Reflection equals serious thought. Contemplation equals deep consideration. He thought about the choices that led to Hana's death. If only I had controlled my anger, he whispered. Conditional sentences like this allow learners to express hypothetical situations. Vocabulary, controlled, restrained. Anger, harsh, strong feeling of displeasure. Whispered, harsh as spoke softly. Police investigation continued, and Arata cooperated fully. Vocabulary, investigation. Careful examination of facts. Cooperate, work together. Each session with the authorities provided him a chance to practice formal English expressions. I understand the gravity of my actions. Gravity equals seriousness. Actions equals deeds. During interviews, Arata explained his emotions clearly. My obsession and jealousy clouded my judgment. I acted impulsively, and I am deeply remorseful. Obsession, unhealthy fixation, jealousy, fear of losing someone's attention, remorse, deep regret. These sentences serve as both language practice and moral illustration. In the evenings, Arata continued journaling. Vocabulary. Journaling equals writing thoughts. Emotions equals feelings. Responsibility equals duty or obligation. He wrote sentences like, I must take responsibility for my impulsive behavior. Responsibility equals being accountable. These practices strengthened both his English and personal growth. Arata met a counselor who guided him in emotional management. Vocabulary, counselor, shasha, a person giving advice, management, heart, handling effectively. The counselor emphasized controlling impulses and understanding emotions. Arata learned expressions like, I will practice self-restraint and patience daily. Self-restraint equals controlling impulses. Patience equals ability to wait calmly. Every day, he reflected on the moral lesson. Anger, when uncontrolled, leads to tragedy. Reflection and communication can prevent harm. Vocabulary, tragedy equals very sad event. Communication equals sharing information. Arata also practiced turning this into English sentences. I regret letting my emotions dictate my actions. Regret, art, sadness over past mistakes. Dictate, nas control. Arata also read English books on emotional intelligence. Vocabulary. Emotional intelligence equals recognizing and managing emotions. Resilience equals ability to recover from difficulties. He realized that every English word he had learned now carried a deeper meaning. Grief, remorse, consequence, obsession, self-restraint, forgiveness. His remorse deepened as he recalled the joyful moments with Hana. Vocabulary. Remorse equals deep regret. Joyful equals full of happiness. Recall equals remember. Each memory was a lesson in both language and morality. He wrote, I will never act impulsively again. Life and relationships are precious. Impulsively, without thinking. Precious, very valuable. Outside, Tokyo continued its rhythmic life, indifferent to individual tragedies. Vocabulary. Indifferent equals not concerned. Rhythmic equals repeating pattern. But for Arata, the world had slowed down. His emotional and language learning intertwined, each reflection enhancing understanding of English words in real-life context. One afternoon, Arata summarized his experience for other learners. 1. Emotional vocabulary, grief, remorse, regret, consequence, obsession, self-restraint. 2. Practical phrases, I feel, because, if I had, I must. 3. Moral lessons, anger leads to irreversible consequences. Reflection, patience, and communication are essential. Forgiveness and self-awareness aid personal growth. He also reflected on how language learning can occur through experiences, observing life, journaling feelings, communicating with others, and reading. Vocabulary, experiences, events happening to someone, observing, shut, watching carefully, journaling, writing thoughts, communicating, sharing ideas. The final days in detention were focused on turning remorse into constructive learning. Arata taught fellow inmates simple English phrases while sharing moral insights. Vocabulary, constructive, were helping improvement. Insights, Sartre's understanding. Example, control your emotions, think before acting, learn English through reflection. Arata's transformation emphasized the story's dual purpose, English learning and life lessons. Vocabulary integrated into his experiences made learning more memorable. Obsession and anger are dangerous. Reflection and self-restraint are powerful. Reflection, careful thought, self-restraint, controlling impulses, powerful, strong impact. At the climax, Arata wrote a final journal entry. I lost Hana because of my uncontrolled anger. I have learned that every action has consequences. English words like grief, remorse, and consequence now teach me more than language. They teach me life. Vocabulary reinforced grief, remorse, consequence. This final part of the story leaves a strong moral lesson for viewers. Anger and impulsive actions can destroy lives. Reflection, patience, self-restraint, and communication are essential for growth. Language learning can be integrated with real-life experiences and moral reflection. Tokyo's neon lights blinked outside, continuing their endless rhythm. Vocabulary, endless, just without end. Blinked, flashed on and off. For Arata, each light was a reminder. Choices matter, words carry meaning, and life lessons can be learned through both reflection and English. Concludes the story with a dramatic climax, emotional depth, and educational integration. Vocabulary, sentence structures, and moral lessons now form a complete learning experience. Learners can use emotional vocabulary, grief, remorse, regret, obsession, self-restraint. Sentence structures, I feel because, if I had, I must. Practical life lesson, control anger, reflect before acting, communicate clearly. The story ends with Arata fully aware of his actions and consequently prepared to practice patience, emotional control, and lifelong learning through both language and life experiences.